They did it again. The absolute Mad Lads pulled it off once more, and they have knocked down a giant. Brazil are eliminated from the 2022 World Cup in the quarterfinal stage yet again. And this is a result I never thought I was going to have to report on. But my, oh my, Croatia has made it to a second consecutive World Cup semifinal against all the odds and flying under the radar once again. How did this happen? So, quarterfinal number 1. Croatia won, Brazil won, penalties, Croatia 4, Brazil 2. From a tactical standpoint, this was my favorite match of the World Cup so far, and I'll tell you why. From the moment this match started, Croatia bossed the midfield, and I could tell within the first 5 to 10 minutes, we the viewers, especially us neutrals, were in for a special treat. Luka Modric was an absolute workhorse today. Somebody has to conduct a heat map of where he was on the pitch throughout the 2 hours of football we had in this game and do an in-depth analysis of how long the distance he ran on the field in this match against Brazil. I thought that Juranovic had a stellar performance. He was flying across the pitch. Him and Luka Modric were not only everywhere on the field today, but they were very quick in transition. Modric made many lovely lobs and passes with the outside of his foot. Croatia were finding space in between tight, narrow spots in the field, and they were moving quick whenever they had the ball. Whenever they were winning 50-50 challenges in midfield and winning the ball back from Brazil, they were swift. And I think especially Juranovic on that left-hand flank, he was causing Brazil a lot of problems whenever Croatia had the ball and they went on the break. We saw Pasalic. He played a dual role in this game, not just as a forward, but he was dropping in deep whenever Brazil were on the attack, and he was helping out the back line of Lovren and Juranovic and Gvardiol. And he had a lot of work today. He had a lot on his plate to handle as well. Croatia applied a lot of pressure, and they were winning many exchanges down the middle of the stretch. And the reason why in the first half that Brazil had very limited opportunities against them, against Croatia, was because Croatia was not allowing it. There wasn't just initially that lack in like a final touch, that spark up front for Brazil, but this was, in the words of match commentator Ian Darke, he put it best, this was a war of attrition. Croatia were proactive with the ball when they had it. Indeed, in the overall stats, they ended up splitting possession with Brazil 51% to Brazil's 49%. And they looked completely unrelenting whenever they pushed forward and took the game to Brazil. And that's the thing, too. Croatia did not show Brazil too much respect. They approached this match in a somewhat similar way, taking the game to Brazil as South Korea did. The only difference here is Croatia has arguably, in my view, a top 5 midfielder of all time in Luka Modric. And arguably, as a national team, since the late 2000s, I would say, the better part of a decade or so, Croatia has consistently produced world-class or borderline world-class midfielders. As a national side, they have always had one of the best midfields in the world. And I think, quite frankly, they might have the best midfield that is still left in this tournament. And this was a team that went toe-to-toe for Brazil, pound for pound, and this was Brazil's first great test of this World Cup. And oftentimes it looked like Brazil did not know what to do when they were dispossessed of the ball and Croatia were getting a rhythm going and getting forward and winning the ball back just as quickly as when they lost it. I think that Croatia, by and large, were very suffocating. Brazil looked brilliant here and there, of course. The 1-2 footwork, the 1-2 passes of Rafinha, Neymar, and Vinny Jr., Casemiro, Richarlison, they caused Croatia a lot of problems. They were able to get in behind and find some space and really threaten the goal. Primarily so in the second half, and that's when Livakovic, the Croatian goalkeeper, he stepped up clutch with several saves with his feet and his knees, and he kept Croatia really in contention in this match throughout most stretches, I felt. Because there were moments when Brazil were finding those areas that Brazil were either too slow to get to react to, whether that Croatia was either too slow to react to. Like, for example, I thought Vinny Jr., he didn't have the best game today that he did previously, but he was causing Lovren a lot of issues with his pace. And I can understand why. Tite subbed him off, because he was a little bit dull here and there on the night, but I think the substitution came a little bit too premature in the game. I think he should have waited until extra time to do this, because when he went off, I felt like that pace on the wings was a little bit lacking for Brazil. And a concern for Croatia in this game was, even though they were very pressing whenever they went forward, they were missing the presence of a true striker, I felt, up until, of course, extra time. Because most of how Croatia looked in this match was, it had the look of a team that, despite all their effort and hard work to keep the game going as long as possible, they had not registered a single shot on target before extra time. And I felt that as the game wore on and as heavy legs prevailed, this was ultimately going to be their undoing, because I thought they were playing the perfect game, and they were. I would not give any Croatian player today lower than an 8 rating out of 10. But you thought that maybe that lack of clinicalness in the final product, someone to tuck away a goal and then just take the lead and then adjust accordingly. You thought that was going to be their undoing, and that it was ultimately going to be overtaken, despite whatever valiant effort they put forward, overtaken by just the pure 1-2 quick minded quality and individual moments of brilliance that Brazil are known to show and have shown earlier in this tournament, like we saw in the group stages with Richarlison and Casemiro with their goals against Serbia and Switzerland. And there was that moment of brilliance today, because in the 106th minute, just before the stroke of halftime of extra time, Brazil had a lovely sequence play when they retook position and ran downfield. And Lucas Paqueta, with a lovely assist that finds Neymar, who's already running in between the Croatian center backs, to get on the end of that, and he skirts around Livakovic, who comes off his line. There's not much Livakovic can do, and Neymar, he skirts around him, he shoots a little bit of an angle, and he slams that home. And it was just like those quick moments that all it takes is just to catch you off guard, or just one momentary lapse in judgment. Those 1-2 touches, that sequence that Brazil had that led to Neymar's goal, you felt that was it. The resistance had been broken. Croatia had been breached. That was all she wrote. But these guys right here, don't know how to lay down and die. This is now the sixth knockout stage game in a World Cup between 2018 and this year, where Croatia fell behind, but they battled back. Their game plan didn't change. They kept their patience and composure. They didn't cave in. They didn't get desperate. They just continued to play their game. And when they went forward, Brazil was leaving those gaps, because Brazil got a little bit complacent. Perhaps they thought the match was already over, but they sat back a little bit. And all it took was a brilliant left-footed shot from the center of the box. It looked like it took maybe a little bit of deflection. landed into the bottom left corner. Alisson had no chance to get to that in the 116th minute. Mislav Orsic with the assist to the goal scorer, Bruno Petkovic, who netted Croatia's only shot on target in this game. That was the first and only shot on target Croatia had in this match, and it was the equalizer. And they did this with just a few minutes before time, saving their World Cup campaign against the mighty Brazil. And when this went to penalties, you knew they had already a psychological edge. And from there, that's all she wrote. Livakovic, just like in the match against Japan, he comes in clutch. He saves Rodrigo's penalty. Modric, Ursic, they net theirs. And the last kick from Marquinhos that hits the post. Brazil missing the first two penalties, I believe. And from there, it just summed up the frustration Brazil had in not being able to break down Croatia for so long, or at least put them away. And Croatia, they just thrive in this environment. They thrive in being the comeback kings. They thrive. This is a team that works so hard and for each other. They are survivors. It gets to a point where a team does this so often that it becomes a literal part of their identity. This is who they are. This is one of the most famous results in their national team's history, beating Brazil. And the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit because they're going to believe they can go on to win this World Cup, go one step further, and finish off the fairy tale from Russia 2018, reaching greater and newer heights. I loved this match so much because it was a test for both teams. One that was, in terms of individual quality, superior, trying to break the other side down, and the other team tactically battling in the midfield, working their strengths, and going mano a mano, one-on-one, and playing one of the tournament favorites here as equals. And Croatia, they came in big. This was a big boy result. I mentioned in my Get Hype video that this was a statement. And they don't care how they keep winning matches, as long as they do it, as long as they scrape through. Hell hath no fury like a team who has made survival a part of who they are. And for Brazil, it's a massive disappointment. No World Cup victory over a European team since now 2002. No World Cup trophy now for going on 24 years. A second consecutive quarterfinal exit. A second successive dream semifinal appearance for the Balkan nation. Luka Modric said it himself on his Twitter after the match. Never give up. This match should be an inspiration for anybody. You never stop believing in yourself and you play to your strengths. And you might just achieve something great.